Hello friends, great news. First, I took the van somewhere. Check out that background. Second, today we're going to learn about the 1980 to 1989 FJ60 Toyota Land Cruiser. So get excited. Odds are you already know the Land Cruiser name. It's in there with Jeep, Range Rover, International Scout, and Bronco in terms of legendary old school SUVs. But did you know that Toyota made 16 different versions of the Land Cruiser? It started with the BJ series in 1951, originally commissioned by the US government for use in the Korean War, followed by the updated J20. Then in 1960, the FJ40 came out, which is instantly recognizable as the classic Land Cruiser, and they made that until 1983. From the FJ40, the Land Cruiser family tree starts to branch off. The wagon series started in 1967 with the FJ55. The successor to the FJ40 came out in 1984, known as the 70 series, and that later branched into light and heavy-duty versions. The 70 series is known as the Prado in Japan and other markets, and you might know it as the Lexus GX, which came stateside starting in 2002. But let's get back to our main topic, the wagon, and specifically the FJ60, which came out in 1980. Outside, new boxy sheet metal, modern for the time, and still handsome today. Under the hood, a 4.2-liter inline-six known as the 2F. The original F-Series engine is loosely based on the Chevy 235, which, in a way, means the Land Cruiser is distantly related to the C1 Corvette. How do you like that? Anyway, the 2F made 135 horsepower and 210 pound-feet of torque, which is not a lot, but it's in line with what Ford had in the Bronco and Chevy offered in the Blazer at the time. Remember, in the early 1980s, everything was really slow and thirsty. Just as a reminder, all of these trucks deliver fuel economy in the low teens. Underneath the FJ60, an updated version of the fully boxed ladder frame used on later FJ55s with solid axles and leaf springs front and rear. Four-wheel drive was standard with a high and low transfer case and manually locking hubs. Old school off-road hardware, in other words. But the Land Cruiser's off-road prowess was slightly hampered by the huge rear overhang, which hurt the departure angle. It's nothing that big tires and a lift kit can't fix, but still it's more on the cruiser side of things. Another weakness is the 3,500 pound towing capacity, which could be a problem if you're planning to live that hipster nomad lifestyle with a 20-foot Airstream, but it's still plenty strong enough to haul a pair of vintage jet skis. There weren't many changes or updates until 1987 when Toyota softened the springs for a more cushy ride. Then in 1988, a refresh with new square headlights and an upgraded engine, a D-stroke 4-liter with new heads, electronic fuel injection, and most importantly, 155 horsepower. Plus you could now get modern amenities like power windows and locks and an automatic 4-speed transmission. The later square headlight Land Cruisers are known as FJ62s. The FJ60 was the Land Cruiser's first step up the luxury ladder, a trend that continued until the current one came out in 2007. Yes, 14 years ago. In 2019, total global Land Cruiser production hit 10 million units, and about 1 million of those were FJ60s. FJ60s were once cheap and almost forgotten. Now they are red hot in the collector market, with prices over $30,000 now common. We sold 2 over that mark. This 1984 example for $33,075 benefited from a recent and thorough engine and driveline service, while this 1983 model that sold for $31,500 was also clean, low mileage, and had a 5-speed transmission that was offered in foreign markets. Both were relatively free of rust, which is the hardest thing to find in a Land Cruiser and correspondingly the biggest factor in price. But you can still find a good FJ60 in the teens and 20s, like this blue 1984 we sold for $24,150. You could find a diamond in the rough for less money, but remember the #1 rule of classic cars. A good expensive car is almost always cheaper than a fixer-upper. In terms of what to look for, aside from the rust, the main problems center around carburetor and vacuum line issues, front axles, and steering. Nothing you can't fix, but you should know to look for it. If you're in the market for a Land Cruiser, do all of your homework ahead of time. And remember, these are 30 to 40-year-old cars, so other areas might need attention, like fluids, seals, and brakes. Be thorough with your pre-purchase inspection to minimize any surprises when you finally take one home. And with that, it is time to shamelessly remind you that HemmingsAuctions.com should be your first place to look for an FJ60, with the Hemmings Classifieds a close second. In both cases, you can save a search and get an alert when a new one comes up. And as always, we have tons of new auctions starting every single day, plus premium classifieds you can buy right now, and an email newsletter to deliver all of that into your inbox. Thanks for watching. See you next time.